Okay, so welcome to my Zoom with Dr. Pedersen. And before he comes on, I just want to talk a little bit about what this is about. So when I first met Dr. Pedersen, and you'll see all this in the video, but basically he told me they needed money. We created ZenByCat to help raise, trying to get $1 million a year. We were naive. We thought that would be easy. Turns out it's much harder. Over the 9 years we've been doing this, ZenByCat, and with Smokey's help and many other humans' help, has raised $650,000. That's what we've donated. So Dr. Pedersen has agreed to come on and do an interview and help us get Smokey to $1 million. That is, encourage more people to donate by signing up for $10 monthly donations. That's the way we raise money. And I will tell you that Dr. Pedersen, I'm so grateful and lucky to have met him. He's one of the most inspiring humans I've ever met. I met him in 2016 when Miss Bean got into the first drug trial. And he's just been so helpful both to me as a friend, as a cat person, and of course in the fight against FIP and in raising money. He has been an unofficial advisor to ZenByCat. He has, of course, he's raised money for his own group, SOC FIP, and other groups. And for these many years, never been able to publicly endorse ZenByCat. This is a very big deal for me, a very first time. And he did that for me in this interview that you will see. And what else can I say about him? He is one of the first persons who ever identified FIP, I think back in 1964, at the beginning of his career. He will always tell you he has had many collaborators and researchers he worked with. He never likes to take credit, and I don't know all the full story, but he spent his whole 50-year career trying to find a cure for FIP, and then was able to, with the help of other researchers, finally use human antivirals and cure cats. Smokey was one of the 7 out of 20 in the very first drug trial in 2016. And for 9 years, we've been trying to find a vaccine. That's the holy grail. We now cure FIP cats all over the world. These drugs work in 85 to 90% of the cases. But we need more drugs. These drugs, won't work forever. And of course, we need a vaccine, and we need a definitive test. There's lots of reasons to continue funding FIP research. And ZenByCat, we ask humbly that people help us. Again, the best way, sign up for $10 monthly donations. You will hear Dr. Pedersen endorse us. And what else can I say? Here's the interview.
Thank you, Peter. Peter,
Yes.
I know that Dr. Pedersen is just renowned. He's done such great work. For those people who are unfamiliar with Dr. Pedersen, can you just give a quick sketch about what his job is and where he works?
Okay, so Dr. Pedersen has retired 3 times that I know of, but he's been really retired for the last few years. I only know of him working at UCDavis when I met him. He was one of the lead researchers in FIP, and again, he had been studying FIP for on and off again. He did lots of other work that I'm not familiar with for 50 years. But at the time I met him, he had come out of retirement to do these drug trials with antivirals, and then he's retired twice more. But now he's really retired. He is going to be speaking at the Every Cat Health Foundation FIP Symposium in Colorado in 10 days, virtually. I'm going in person. For anyone who's going, I hope to meet you there, but he's going to virtually appear. But that's what I know of him. He is world renowned for FIP research, and he is one of the people who discovered the cure. Dr. Pedersen.
Hi.
Good morning.
Morning to you.
So let's talk about Smokey and what you remember of the story, because it's 9 years ago, and how he's helped us pay it forward with ZenByCat. So do you remember?
Well, it all starts with a decision I made that it appeared that the best way to handle FIP was not to do further work with vaccination or even different types of prevention, that really what was needed was kind of an effort to concentrate on antiviral drugs, which were kind of the big thing at the time because of the work with hepatitis C, with HIV and that. So I was intrigued by articles that came out of Dr. Yan Kim's laboratory at Kansas State University on what are called 3C-like protease inhibitors for feline calicivirus, norovirus infection of people, and feline coronavirus. She did some work on that, interestingly. And that work goes back to like 2012, but it was a paper in 2015 that got me most interested. So I decided to contact her. And she was very gracious, and I posed the idea of actually working with her to test this novel protease inhibitor that she was working on, actually against cats that had FIP, which she realized that something really great could come out of such a collaboration. And so her group was able to supply expertise as well as the drugs for trials done at in our facilities. So anyway, we set up a trial at Davis with collaboration from the people at Kansas State University, and put out a call for cases, and you were one of those to respond, and with Smokey. And I think you know more about the details, but from what I can remember, Smokey was a kitten that was not in very good shape, that was adopted by a lady who I think basically could not take on the expenses and the necessary things to treat what kind of was what may be a fatal, 100% fatal disease. So you, and maybe you better explain that, but you took it on, you took Smokey on yourself and made contact with us, and he was enrolled in our study. And of course, what happened next was history. So maybe you ought to explain it.
Yeah,
You know that a little better than I do.
Yeah, and of course you've treated so many cats, so Smokey's story is even stranger than that. So of course Miss Bean was my first kitten that got into the trial, and I was connected with UCDavis because my house was a little bit famous, and Miss Bean was diagnosed, and she got in, and that's the day I met you. I brought Miss Bean, and unfortunately she only lasted 4 weeks during the trial. And you yourself actually had to euthanize her, I think, on a Monday morning after she had a seizure overnight. But you told me they learned a lot from Miss Bean. And then Smokey came at the end of the trial, and Smokey had been admitted by UCDavis, nothing to do with me. And then the people who had him were actually like a home shelter. They were just people being kind and rescuing cats. And to make the story a little bit shorter, I ended up adopting Smokey in a parking lot the night before I brought him to you, because they couldn't get him to you. And also there was a little worry about whether that was a shelter or not, and you can't treat shelter cats. So anyway, he ended up in front of you and you agreed to treat him. And unlike Miss Bean, he went on to become one of the 7, I think, out of that 20 who survived. I think 7 out of 20 in the first trial, correct?
That's right. That's correct. You have to realize that first trial with GC376, was totally, everything was unknown. We had no idea the dosage other than ballpark figures. We had no idea how long they should be treated. We had no idea of the problem of neurologic and ocular spread of the virus, and the difficulty in getting effective drug levels into the brain and into the eyes. So these were all things that were discovered during this trial with 20-some cats on GC376. So this trial actually, we were able to save 7 cats and cure, and Smokey was one of those 7, yes. But you have to realize that a lot of learning was done. You know, we had to, the drug was precious. It was being almost virtually handmade in Yan Jiang's laboratory at Kansas State. And we had to be careful that we didn't waste it. It was very precious, the amount of drug we were given. And so as a result of this trial with GC376, we were able to take everything we learned from this trial and with Smokey and apply it to the subsequent trial with GS 44156, which was a wholly different type of drug. It was an RNA inhibitor. And so we knew at that point, based on results of the GC376 trial, that we had to treat much longer. We still didn't know how long, but we knew it had to be much longer than 2 to 4 weeks. We knew that cats with pre-existing ocular and neurologic disease were going to be more difficult to treat because of the inability to get effective blood level or levels into the brain and into the eyes. We knew that cats with young cats with wet FIP were much more had a much more favorable prognosis based on Smokey, who was one of those more acute wet FIP cases. And so a lot of background information was learned by GC376 trial and by Smokey. So we were able then to do the GS study and basically cure both neurologic and dry FIP as well as wet FIP cases. And we also learned that it was a long slog. You know, it would take up to 12 weeks of treatment, but we're able to save most of them. So I guess what I'm saying is that the GC376 trial, although saving 7 out of 20 some cats was not as favorable as what we saw with GS, if that trial was indispensable for our success with the GS trial. It set the basis. We learned so much. And if we had to test GC376 again, I'm confident that we'd see much higher favorable treatment success than we saw in that original trial.
Yes, you told me, to your credit, because actually when Smokey entered the trial, it was bumped up to 9 weeks, and then during his treatment, you still were losing cats, and you moved it to 12, and that's where you found the 12 weeks. And when we got to 12 weeks, I asked you to treat him to 14 weeks because, of course, I love Smokey, and you were very clear, and you said, no, this is a trial to find the dose, and we are trying to save lots and lots of cats. We stop at 12 weeks, and of course, luckily that worked. And I also want to, I know you don't like when people give you credit, so I'll be careful about this, but I want to point out that Smokey, Miss Bean and Smokey inspired ZenByCat. And when I met you, the day that Miss Bean got into the trial, of course, I was so grateful that you were giving my cat a chance. And I said, how can I help you? And you said, oh, that's easy. We need money. We meaning researchers around the world. And I whipped out my checkbook. This is a long time ago where people actually use checks still. And I gave you a $500 check. And the second I handed it to you, your face told me something. And I said, oh, you mean big money. And you said, yes. You said we need $1 million a year. And we means researchers around the world. If we had $1 million a year steady funding, we could end FIP. So I created ZenByCat, and you warned me how hard it was to raise money. And I was luckily naive and didn't know how hard it was. And I started ZenByCat trying to raise $1 million a year. It's much harder than that. But in the 9 years since ZenByCat was created, we've donated over $650,000. And that's from ZenByCat and Smokey. And I want to point out in the second trial, I only know Luna from the second trial, Deb's cat. And Deb went on to, has a group, FIP. Oh, I'm going to get the name wrong. I'll find it. I'll post it later. But what I'm saying is that you've inspired lots and lots of people to raise lots and lots of money. And the group, I co-founded FIP Warriors, which is dedicated to saving today's cats. And then my cat raises money for research. Around the world, we have saved hundreds of thousands of cats. And that's all comes from, Smokey was one of the first 7, but your persistence over so many years. And I just want to say that you have saved a lot of cats.
Yeah, it's been a big success story, and I'm grateful for all of the work that common people have done, cat lovers throughout the world, and taken on this treatment. Unfortunately, you know, the story about the drug, these especially GS 441524 being unable to get it licensed with FDA approval for use in cats. We just couldn't get access to the patents, which then created the need for these what are called FIP warrior groups, a name which I think you started, which this group and various offshoots of it are known throughout the world internationally, and as you say, have saved many, many, many cats from FIP. Without the public buy-in of finding ways to get this drug into the hands of people that had cats that were dying of this disease, yeah, I dare say I don't know what the history of the last 6 or 7 years, which you know, this research goes back. The GC 376 was published in 2017. Some of the GS in 2019. So we're talking about many years now. The time is going by. We're getting older. I'd like to say you're getting balder, but I think it's been pretty well the same all over these years. But anyway, I know I'm getting a little balder. But and so anyway, I want to just say one thing about the cats in the trial. A lot of the successfully treated cats went on to be public figures, not just Luna, but others as well, and their owners have shared the lives of their cats online. But I think none so as Smokey. Now, I have to admit, Smokey caught my eye at first for a couple of reasons. First of all, he's unique. His color pattern and that is not a common. You have to admit, is pretty uncommon. The other thing was that he was even though he was sick, you could see a special spark in him. He wanted to survive. You know, you knew he had a special thing about him, and you just wanted to help him. And you know, the minute we started on his treatment, within a day or two, he just started to blossom, you know, and within 4 or 5 days, he was running all over the place. And he's never really looked back. You know, he's an amazing cat. And I think you would like to say that somebody up there maybe selected him to be your spokesperson, but however it happened, he really is a great cat to head off this effort to raise the final amount of money to bridge this $1 million. You know, 1 million is a lot of money, but you're probably, after you raise this 1 million, you're probably going to go for 2, right?
Of course, we're going to go until they have a vaccine, and FIP is just a dark history that people talk about as old disease. But I want to say Smokey's life actually is even harder. The people that kind of private shelter group, they found him in a field alone near death, without a mother, and they nursed him back to health only then to to be diagnosed with FIP, and then he got into the trial. Again, I like to think, it was a very small trial and he got in late. I always think, Miss Bean died and that made room for Smokey and a bunch of, things that happened that got him in there. And then he got cured, right? 12 weeks of twice daily painful shots, because that was GC 376 protocol. And then I don't know if you know, but last year, 8 years after he was cured, he had a near fatal experience with FIC, where his urethra was blocked and he had to have emergency surgery and spent eight days in the hospital. So he's been through so much, and as you said, his personality never darkens. Even when he was getting the shots and they were really painful, we had a vet tech come twice a day to help us with it, and the vet tech would walk in the house and he knew what was coming, and he never ran. He would just hunker down and growl and let us give him the shot. And he's remained this very loving, engaging cat still to this day.
Yeah, I remember now. You reminded me of what happened in the past, and I kind of forgot a little bit about Miss Bean. Miss Bean was your first love, and you got in the trial, as you said, with her, and she was too a special cat too, and obviously you were very close to her. And I have to admit that one of the reasons Smokey came into the trial late, because we had to make more drug to accommodate each cat. Basically, it was make the drug enough to get through one cat at a time type of thing. And so I think it was because of your love that you showed and dedication to Miss Bean, and how much we loved her and how hard we fought to save her life, which we were unable to because she, as you mentioned, the virus entered into the nervous system and we could no longer effectively with that particular drug get enough into the brain to inhibit the virus. But needless to say, it was hard. It was a hard day. I remember when she was put down, and yeah, and Smokey was there to take her place. I think you're absolutely correct. We owe a little bit to Miss Bean to set the way.
Yes, Miss Bean was there 4 weeks, and I drove up there twice a week. And anyone in your trials knows the visiting room has a drain in the center of the room, little concrete drain, and many people have pictures of their little kittens playing on that drain. And losing Miss Bean was very, very painful. But and I want to remind you of the story. When I told you about Smokey, he had already been admitted, and then the night before I was going to bring him there, I sent you an email saying, "Hey, amazing thing, I ended up adopting Smokey because these people can't make it," and blah blah blah. And I sent that the night, and in the morning I got up to take him to UCDavis, and you sent me a pretty angry email saying there's no way you can accept Smokey because one, he's a shelter cat, and two, it would look like favoritism, and I've already had a cat. And I'm not attacking you. You were completely right. You couldn't endanger the trial with a shelter cat, and it couldn't look like favoritism. So I didn't know what to do that morning. So I just wrote you and saying, look, he's a very sick little kitten, and I'm going to bring him, and I hope you treat him. And when I got there, you greeted me at the door. You were very kind to me. You said, look, I understand he's not a shelter cat, and I understand there's no favoritism. So if he meets the rules, we'll let him in, and you let him in. So Smokey, again, his stars always align. And I'm going to bring him here. I want you to see him if he cooperates. Hang on, let me get him. Smokey. All right, so we're looking for him. He'll be here shortly.
Yeah, let me explain one thing.
Yeah.
You said that we weren't allowed to take shelter cats in. The rules the rules for USDA is that basically you can't use shelter cats for research purposes. So you either have to raise your own cats, laboratory cats, but you can't go out and take some cats from the shelter and use them for research. So, but you can on a trial have an owner's cat and then of course you had, remember, you had to sign some paperwork and agreements that you had to live by, that there's certain rules that the owners had to abide by to make sure that the trial was a success, whether the cat was successfully treated or not. And I have to admit that among the dozens of owners that we had through both the GC 376 and the GS trials, we only had one owner that failed to live up to all of the very onerous, some of them onerous obligations, including the fact if your cat died, that a full necropsy had to be done and to determine exactly what the reason was that the treatment failed, you know. And so it's really a tribute to all of the owners, as I said, that virtually all of them abided by these very difficult rules. And so
Yeah, I want to give credit again to Deb because her group is called Help for FIP. And as you said, ZenByCat, we co-founded FIP Wars with Robin, and then FIP Wars grew and grew and grew and split many times. And now we work in a coalition, and I just want to give credit because so many people, as you always say, so many researchers helped you, and so many people have helped with these groups. Deb's group is called Help for FIP, and there's FIP Global Support and FIP Felines Hope and Support. All these groups split and then come back together. Oh, here, just a minute. We have Smokey.
there he is with his cape.
Yeah, Smokey loves wearing clothes. People often say that we're being mean to him, but he thinks of it as play. Here, let me see if I can get him to stay on camera. Here, come here, come here. He loves churros.
Yeah, a lot of cats love churros. Yeah.
So, and while I'm feeding him a bit, I just want to say, so Smokey, as I said, when I first met you, we want to get $1 million. We raised $650,000 over 9 years with Smokey as the main spokescat. So we're having this new campaign. We're trying to get him to $1 million as soon as we can. And as I've said many times, you told me once that if one person donated $20 million, that wouldn't be as useful as thousands of people donating small amounts because it would show a drug company that there's actually a market. So ZenByCat has raised $650,000, and more than half of that comes from $10 monthly donors. That's the main way we get people. We ask people, cure your cat and then pay it forward. Sign up $10 a month, 2 cups of coffee. That's the best way to help both raise money and show drug companies there's a market.
Yeah, with the price of cups of coffee now, that's probably, you should up the
Yeah, it's only 1 cup of coffee now.
Yeah. Well, I encourage everybody to support Smokey and your organization in this effort.
And
I think it's going to, the money that you've given has been used very well over the last few years by, it's gotten its way into a number of organizations. And I guess there's a meeting coming up in Denver in a month, in a very short time, that you'll see some of the results of the more recent research that's been going on. You know, you mentioned prevention, and I think the drug treatment provides a way that we can take care of those that are unfortunate enough to get sick. But what we want to do ultimately, given the cost and the problem and the pain that these animals will have to go through sometimes with treatment, that prevention, you know, finding ways to prevent the disease is ultimately going to be the most helpful. Whether that involves new types of vaccines or new types of procedures to minimize coronavirus infection in shelter environments and in catteries and in nature. I think this research, I think we're going to get some answers in the next decade. I hope that will allow us, and maybe by the time I I go, maybe we'll have some really good ways to prevent the infection and not just treat it. But I'm happy that we were able, that after all the years I studied on FIP, you know, my goal was to understand the disease and how it occurred. And we discovered many great things on how the virus mutated and changed its form.
Well, let me jump in, because I also want to say thank you for doing this video. And through the years, you know, we've raised money for you as your group as well, SOC FIP. And now ZenByCat gives all its money, for many years now, it's given all its money to the Every Cat Health Foundation, who shares it around the world. But it all goes to helping cats. And doesn't matter what groups people donate. Of course, I advocate for ZenByCat, but all the different people are raising money, and whether it goes to SOC FIP or Every Cat or ZenByCat, the bottom line is we fund researchers all over the world. And I appreciate your making this video. And hey, hang on a sec, cat fights. Hey, sorry, cat fight with 28 cats sometimes.
Hopefully that fight didn't involve Smokey, or did it?
It did. Smokey went after Jupiter Jones. So he mostly gets along with cats, but you know cats, they don't always get along.
Yeah, they have their friends and their adversaries. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just saying, I thank you for doing this video, but you're one of the most inspiring humans I've ever met. You warned me about how hard it is to raise money, to be careful about companies promising things that they don't always follow through. And through it all, we just keep raising money because when I started, Smokey was cured in 2016 until 2019 when the online drugs became available. Cats, all of them still died, and we still had to ask people to donate. And these drugs today wouldn't be here if cat parents hadn't donated when their cats died. And now their cats are being cured, and we're just asking people to pay it forward and get to the final goal, which is the vaccine, as you said.
Okay, hopefully that will happen. Thank you for allowing me to lend my support to your effort. You know how I think about you guys. I think about Smokey. I value the friendship that we've had through the years. These are all important things to me.
And you're really invited to come visit Smokey. I really want you to come. There's a hotel nearby. We have an airport. You could sit on the ground and be covered with 28 cats.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
All right. Thank you.
Take you up on it. Okay, bye.
Bye. ZenByCat is our 501c3 legal nonprofit that we fund FIP research. We are unique in that we only keep 10%. We guarantee 90 cents every dollar goes directly to researchers, and 10% is not enough to run a charity. I make up the difference. We never use any money for our cats or our cat house, and our cat house is called House of Nekko. And House of Nekko has Smokey and now 27 other cats, all rescues. And one of the oldest ones here is Cheesecake here. So say hi, Cheesecake. Cheesecake, 18 and a half years old.